steering wheel. Lots of steering wheel, yeah. Give him steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on! Whoa!
Your leg, mate, please. Your leg.
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. The rest of the race. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the Hanger straight. I am so annoyed.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 870. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly why I asked you here. I also asked a whole group of our Patreon supporters to join us in the live audience. Hello, Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. Glad you're here with us for the podcast. Oh boy, tonight, what aren't we going to cover? There's all kinds of news. It's the off season. I might have all kinds of anecdotal tales. You just don't know what we're going to do. But that means that's exactly, that small little place, that little hamlet called Washington, D.C. is where she resides. That music just gives you the idea, Grace, that you're sitting there with a Crevassier, you've got a fire going, you've got 5 cats on your lap. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable. Grace, how you doing?
I only have 4 cats.
4. I was so close.
Don't give me more cats.
Yeah, no, you don't need more cats.
4 is enough.
Yeah. I know I've mentioned it before, but after watching that documentary, The Lion in Your Living Room,
yeah, you
don't need any more cats.
No, 4 is a full-time job. There's for sure a cat to toddler ratio that's,
Yeah, right. Oh, man. So, we're going to cover some news. Come on, Ian. You didn't buy merch? Oh, come on.
I have almost 20 years worth of merch at this point.
You do.
So,
yeah, Grace has some of the OG merch. Back when we were the other name.
That's right.
Which can't be mentioned.
The Archticus.
Yeah, right. The hell does that mean? Oh, boy, that's the old days.
I guess it's good that didn't end up being our tagline, right?
Yeah.
What?
The what? I don't know. Is that Latin? What is that?
Who is that guy?
Latin for race? I don't know what that is.
Nobody knows.
Oh, boy. We're going to talk about some Formula One news tonight. I'm kind of excited about the Formula One news tonight. It may not be primary, in-season news, but it's secondary, tertiary. It's all important. That's my dog joining us. That's going to be the soundtrack for tonight's podcast. Sorry about that.
Lots of opinions. I mean, it happens in meetings all the time. I swear, the second, the cats can be sound asleep, and the second I start talking, they're starting I'm like, well, I'm glad that you have so many opinions on these questions. What would you recommend?
Yeah, if I had my office doors open, they'd be laying in here, napping away. But because I got the doors closed, and I've got Australian Shepherds, which are Velcro dogs, they're just... it's crazy. So tonight,
you should just open your door and let them zoom you around your office and then back out again.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, that'd be great. Everybody'd enjoy that. So tonight, let's jump into some news tonight and cover some Formula One news. The first one, now I'm a little reticent in using this name because we all know the team is changing its name. It's Alpha Tauri, right?
Yeah.
So Alpha Tauri, or hence formerly known as Alpha Tauri, right?
Yes.
This is when Warner Brothers screwed them on a record deal, or was it Sony? I don't remember. Anyway, speaking of music, Grace, I got this.
Oh, nice! Nice.
I'm excited. I'm excited to read this. And Amazon sent it to me, and the whole front cover is all damaged. And, isn't that terrible?
That is terrible. Those jerks. They'll send you a new one.
Yeah, but they were like, okay, well, you got to drive to Hell's Half Acres to drop this off and return it. I was like, it's not a saleable book. Come on.
I mean, I guess I had that happen. Random story, right? Books for my nieces and nephews, and I bought bubble bath for the new baby, and the bubble bath exploded in the box, because why would we put bubble bath in its own packaging? We just put it in there and it leaked everywhere, and so I just had to mail back the book, but it was the same. I'm like, well, it's pretty gross, and they were like, well, just take it to FedEx and they'll take it back. Okay, it's gross. It's covered in bubble soap.
I live out, and for me to drive all the way, and I'm thinking,
not worth it.
Dude, seriously. And I finally got hold of somebody, and he was like, "Oh, no, it's fine. Just throw it away. I'll send you a new one." Okay. The correct answer is, that was. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I didn't break it.
I mean, you paid. I mean, this is well within your rights. You paid X amount of money for a book in a perfect condition, right? Like you didn't buy it used. You didn't buy it
no,
right?
No.
Oh, and broken cover. That's what I wanted, right?
And I paid for delivery. So come on.
Yeah, no, that's
so
fine.
Anyway,
they'll fix it. They fixed it.
Yeah, that's enough. I did a visual as if everyone watches the YouTube video. Most people don't watch the YouTube video. They listen to the podcast. I'm sorry, folks. It is, so you guys know I'm a musician, I'm a guitar player, and I like all kinds of music and all kinds of different genres. One of the first one in my young impressionable age was I was a huge Rush fan, still am. And so anyway, it was Geddy Lee, the bass player for Rush. It's his autobiography that I was holding up. Apologies for those listening at home. That was very insensitive of me.
I literally explain all of my answers using hand gestures as if people can see me. I'm sure there are plenty of things that are like, I don't know how Grace feels about that, because I just gestured away and you were all just supposed to figure it out. Yeah. I don't know.
That's right.
It happens.
That's right. So back to my story. Oh, why don't you quit bothering people? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey! So,
why don't we... I like calling them the team formerly known as AlphaTauri.
Formerly known as AlphaTauri.
I like referring to the Washington Commanders as the Washington football team. I don't care what they call themselves now. They're always going to be the Washington football team, I think.
Well, maybe it's just the Red Bull Junior team.
Maybe. They could be... I liked Stick. I think that's my new favorite. Because there'll be steak in countries where they can have gambling advertisements, but in the countries they can't, they have to advertise as Kick. So then there's Stick F1.
Stick F1, I like it. That's good. So AlphaTauri's got some new digs. Now we know that Franz Tost is out, right? We all know that.
Goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
There's a little Helmut Marko for you. So we know Franz Tost is out, and they've got a new CEO named Peter Bayer, along with a new team boss in Laurent Mekies, who's coming over from Ferrari, right? And they will eventually have a new name, but that new name has not been released yet. At least I have not seen that new name, and I think they'll make a big deal of it when they do change their name, kind of like Stick F1.
Stick F1.
We also know that there's been talk about working closer with the technical supplier and parent team, which is Red Bull. And this has even raised a few eyebrows, including the seasoned veteran chief at the helm of McLaren, Zach Brown. Right?
This is the only reason I know this story is because of Zach Brown. I think he should just he should be my news, aggregator, right? I don't know.
You would.
Let's see what Zach's mad about this week, and then I'll know. So I would probably have no idea except for this show and when Zach is unhappy.
Right. So Zach was, during the off season, he's a little contemplative,
as he's wont to do.
Little chin stroking there about the closeness, if you will, of AlphaTauri, team formerly known as AlphaTauri, and Red Bull's tie-up, right? But nonetheless, they are. And what you may not know, though, is, you may know that this team traditionally was Minardi, and it's based in Italy, in Faenza, right? What you may not know is while the team have had their Aero department in the UK, it's now moved that department closer to Red Bull in a brand new facility in Milton Keynes. Yes. How about that? Now, here's Peter says that the lease was up at the old place, so moving closer to the hub of racing gives them a better chance to lure better engineers and staff.
Oh, yeah.
Hint, hint, nod, nod, wink, wink.
I like the hub of racing as if, just this one part. I mean,
Milton Keynes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like the other, 9 teams aren't in Milton Keynes, but they are all in, mostly in England.
Woking, not a hub.
Nope.
Brackley, not a hub. Milton Keynes, hub.
The gas station outside of Milton Keynes, where all the business is done.
Yeah, darn right. He says he also says that getting closer to Red Bull will be easier on the engineers when it comes to wind tunnel work, simulator work, and they will not have to go as far to dumpster dive through Adrian Newey's waste bin and looking for versions of his drawing. They didn't say that. I added that last part. All right. That would be creative licensing.
No way. I would love it if this is the tell-all book we've been waiting for, right?
It is.
Like now he's just going to start what are they going to do? Fire him? He's already out. Say whatever you want, man. Make stuff up.
I'm done.
I never liked that guy anyway.
To be fair, he may be right that it has been difficult to hire engineers and then ask them to move to Italy, right? So there are challenges, and I get it. And Peter said this, and I'm quoting this article at Old Who Sport. Peter said this. He said, quote, I give you my own example. When I started, I took my wife. We drove to Faenza. She said, oh, it's beautiful. And we had pizza and drove out to the sea. And then she said, so what about the school? I said, I don't think there is one. And what about a potential job opportunity for me? She went on. And he said, I don't think there are any.
Yeah.
Yeah. That set off any sirens? Yes. I'm sure she was like, okay, no school for our children, no work opportunities for me. What am I going to do? What are the kids going to do? I don't know. But it's a good thing she didn't say, well, what about the schools? There aren't any. And what about a potential job? And it's a good thing she should say, well, what about a race-winning F1 team? Because I don't think there's one of those there either.
That is cold as ice.
That cold.
Cold.
I know it was going.
I like this.
No, 2008 Sebastian Vettel Monza. I know. I like
the off-season time. That's a little spicy, right? I like this sort of toss that out there. It's 2 jabs in one story. I mean, I think that is a point. I mean, right? Of course, they just they want to move to England. I get that. It is closer. It is where all the other teams except for Ferrari is. I mean, maybe you could have put a couple buildings between you and Red Bull. Maybe it wouldn't look so suspicious, right? You literally oh, the house next door to you is for sale. We'll be there, right? Maybe you could have gone down the street and bought a house, right? But I get that they want to be closer because that is absolutely would be very hard.
Are you getting the mental image that they just did a Morton pop-up building and anchored it to the backside of the Milton Keynes, and blew out a wall in the Red Bull office and walks into the Morton building?
It's it's one of those metal sheds or something, or it's just building. Well, thank you. There you go. It's made out of tin or IKEA pressboard furniture. And
right.
This is where we work now. This is our wind tunnel, right? So I get it, but I think you're a little too on the nose, right? But they've never moved before. It's not they just moved there. They've been there for 20 plus years. I mean, as long as I've been watching the sport, Minardi was there. You could have moved at any point along the way. So, but now you want to move. Now it's a problem, and of course, Zach and others are going to be now you're going to do it. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and that's kind of that's his job, right? I guess we were talking on the last podcast. You always have to be kind of what are you doing over here? What if I did that? What if I just happened to move our planet somewhere? Any
hopes of Zach having and paving a great relationship with Christian Red Bull died last year when he sent that letter, and it was whoa. That Thursday press conference with Christian there seething, and Zach kind of sat there, looking around. It was whoa, that was frosty.
That's why we love Zach.
Yeah, but Zach handled it fine. So there you go. All right. Hey, Patreon supporter Desmo asks, is Sauber in Switzerland? Yes, they are in Switzerland. Hinwil, Switzerland, to be exact.
Stick F1.
Right, exactly. Let's see. Next up in the news is... yeah, go ahead. You were just going to say
I was going to say, because Haas is now technically right in Italy, or are they still technically in England?
Technically in England.
Okay.
No, technically they're in, North Carolina, but their whole sort of F1... They've got two places, North Carolina, which they do some stuff. I'm pretty sure it's North Carolina, and then the UK, yeah.
Okay, but they do have some tin sheds outside of Ferrari's parking lots, right? Like there's some...
they might. They may have a pop-up tent or something.
Yeah, there's a blue tarp. I mean, this is Haas, right? It's a blue tarp with some sticks.
Well, I don't know. It's Gene Haas. It could be one of those bouncy castles. I don't know. Gene out there, woo!
So then it is only 3 teams now, 2 teams that are located outside of England, right?
Let's see. Ferrari, Haas,
Stick F1,
Stick F1, and Alpine.
Oh, and Haas. So 4. Alpine. Oh, they're in France. Well, that's more than... No, they're not technically in England.
Well, they have place in England too. Yeah, but no, the engine program's in Brilly, France. That's right.
Right.
But yes, you're right. Instant, right?
I'm just trying to be as correct as possible here.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the only ones that come to mind, yeah.
Which, mind you, would be a first in the 20 years we've been doing this podcast that I've aimed to be correct about something.
Right.
So,
yes.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm just thinking. But you're right. They probably
this podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
That's the only reason why I'm ever here. It's,
right.
Facts. You came here for facts. I think you came to the wrong person.
Right.
I'm entertainment.
Okay, so let's talk about this whole active Aero Band-Aid sort of thing. I thought this was kind of interesting. So... It was an interesting article over, again, at Autosport regarding the proposed active front and rear wings for the 2026 season. Now, you'll recall that F1 is ditching the MGU-H, or as Paul might say, the MGU-H. I don't think he does that with his
I don't think so either. But he's not here to defend himself, so let's go with that.
He's not. And dragging more power out of the MGU-K system, leaving it to do 50% of the power development in the 2026 engine. So let me try to make a reduction sauce out of that. So they're getting rid of the MGU-H, the turbo sort of, it's still turbo, but the exhaust thing. And the MGU-H is going away. They're keeping the MGU-K, the kinetic side, and that device itself must provide 50% of the power for the overall power unit.
Right.
So 50% coming from internal combustion engine, 50% coming from MGU-K. So that is the decision about the 2026 moving forward. Now, this led to some simulator work being done, which prompted some fears over the so-called Frankenstein cars. And Max Verstappen actually saying that he was downshifting on the straights in the sim due to the massive power drops. So he's downshifting to try to get more power generated. And that, nobody wants to go down the front straight of Monza and have all the cars downshift and go slow because they're harvesting, right?
Right.
So that's not a good thing. So due to that issue, F1 is expected to introduce active front and rear wings to reduce the drag. Okay? And Red Bull engineer Pierre Wache says that these quick fixes should not detract from the larger, deep-rooted issue that needs addressing.
Right. That's right.
And so, speaking exclusively, I might add, so I am stepping on Autosport's toes because this is exclusively over there, and I advise you to go over there and read the article. They did a great job. But speaking over there about the straight line capabilities of the next generation cars, he said this. He said, quote, "The speed is going down and the feeling is not so nice. The FIA works with the teams on how this energy will be deployed to make it less annoying for the driver and to have better speed profile throughout the lap. Plus, they also work on the car characteristics to have less drag and less downforce. By having less downforce, you recover more energy because you spend more time in corners and in the braking zones, and then you spend less time on the straights, end quote. And then he was asked about these active wings, and Pierre said that if you need a patch to solve an issue, that's one thing, but starting off with a patch is not a good thing. So patching patches is not optimum at all, right?
Right.
And you might say, well, why not just reuse the amount of power from the MGUK or increase it or like if they're saying that 50% of the power's got to come from the MGUK, reduce that number. Just reduce it to 30% and make 70% of the power coming from the 1.6 liter turbo, right?
They make the rules. They can make them whatever they want, right?
Yeah,
Nobody said it had to be an even split, right?
Right. So
you do what you want.
In my sense, I'm thinking, well, okay, if a 50% requirement of hybrid power is what they're wanting to do, but that's putting them behind the eight ball on this thing, then just have more power come from the ICE and do 30% from MGUK or whatever, right?
I mean, it's always a balance, right?
Yeah, it is. And I get it. They've got the hybrid in there and they want to use it, and they're ditching the MGUH, and I'm sure a lot of teams thought, well, let's up the battery, let's up the the kilojoule output, and let's do that. And probably all good, well-intentioned meetings and that kind of thing. But this is where they're at. So when you're thinking about that, he said, quote, the problem is that the design time and the development time of an engine are longer than the chassis. So to change the concept of the ICE, the battery, and the electrical power starts to be very difficult for them by now. But the thing is that they didn't think through the full concept of these new regulations at the same time. First, they defined the engine regulations, and now we have to cope with that on the chassis side to compensate for the issue we have. Now, it is a bit odd that you're now trying to think of patches for the chassis and bodywork to compensate for the engine framework. And it makes one wonder if their dogged determination to increase hybrid functionality had them missing a few crossed T's and dotted I's on this thing. And that's kind of what he's implying. He's saying, look, it's all about the engine, so they made this engine and put these regulations down, but they didn't think it through. And now we're running around trying to come up with patches and chassis solutions to solve for the limitations of their regulations of the engine.
But here's what I don't understand. I mean, among many things that we've already talked about in this podcast, but here's what I don't understand. So here's a little survey design, right? Like what I do in my day job. So you have everything that comes before collecting the data and everything that comes after collecting the data. So I work on the front end. But if I write a question, I have to be talking to the people who do the post-data processing because it's going to affect the weights they put on the data, for example. I don't work in a vacuum on the front end because otherwise, in a year from now, when the back end gets the data, they're going to be like, what did you do, right? Like, you work together. So I don't understand how, that's a very simple example. I don't know how you can, we want to put out rules for a car, but we're only going to focus on this part or this part, and all these parts aren't talking together, and they have nobody on their staff that can, take a holistic view of it, because that's always what you would want from your team lead. It's somebody who can understand both the questions you need to write in order to get the data you need and to make sure that both ends of those parts are talking. I just think this is last time I checked, you referred to yourself as the pinnacle of motorsports, and you can't get this. I almost swore. Sorry, you can't get this right. Get it together, people. This is not your. You've been doing this since, as Ferrari likes to remind us, you've been doing this for quite some time. So I'm not sure I understand how you. Of course, there's trade-offs, right? If you really want to push the hybrid, right, because that's where car manufacturers want to be or whatever, that's what you want to do. There's going to be a compromise, but you're right. If you get too much power from this place and it doesn't work out in the chassis, we're going to have boring racing, and who wants that? And then nobody's going to watch it, and it doesn't matter that you have the greatest engines on the planet and the crappiest chassis. Nobody's watching it.
Yeah, it's one of those
I don't know how this happens.
Yeah, I've written about this ad nauseum over the last 17 years at this website, and we've talked about this, and I've said this 1,000 times on practically 1,000 podcasts. if you're new to F1, this will be frustrating or head scratching for you. All you veteran listeners and veteran F1 fans out there know this. This is not going to be any shock, any surprise to any of you. And I've said it 1,000 times about F1 and their regulations, and there's knock-on effects, and they missed that, and they didn't think it through. I've criticized their dogged determination to be pragmatic instead of prudence. Prudence is far better. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can sum this up now, I'm trying to come up with superlatives or different words or acronyms, or hell, at this point, I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd help. But the only thing I can say is that everything in life, in decisions, generally has a knock-on effect or unintended consequence. And Formula One's regulations are no different. You make a regulation, and the teams will exploit it, take it to its nth degree, and those kind of things. And there's a lot of unintended consequence with those decisions. What always surprises me, though, is I hold all of these teams and their engineering staff in incredibly high regard.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
very smart people, a lot smarter than I am. And you can say, well, Todd, you've got the luxury of hindsight. And you said, not really. I've been around. I've been watching this sport as long as these people have been in it. And we all know that. And so I'm always surprised when something like this kind of catches them.
I am too. I don't think, I don't know why that isn't.
How to get through.
It's as if you've never built a car before.
Yeah.
Like, you've all done this before you got here somewhere or another. You know what I mean? I agree with you. I think this is this isn't just a misstep, right? Like, sometimes that happens. Like, sometimes ask Mercedes, right? Like, sometimes you had a plan and things didn't kind of work out the plan, right? That happens, but this doesn't seem to be the case, and I don't know why it catches them off guard. Although,
and I'm not armchair quarterbacking this thing. I'm not an engineer. I don't know this stuff. This isn't my world. I honestly, I wouldn't have a clue. No,
but I'm sure in your daily life, you have examples of that too, right?
Yes.
Like, you don't just roll in and do what you want and not pay attention to what the customer wants or what the size of the room is or whatever, right?
Yeah, of course not. And in my world, and what I do have skills in, we wouldn't do that. But the fact is, the only thing I can think of is that they've continued to do this over the years, and there's money and politics involved, and no team wants to do anything if they think perceivably another team gets a leg up. And I think it's all of those layers of money, investment, and greed, and all those things that prevent or cause some of these situations, or some of these situations may have been aggressive but were neutered, so half-baked regulations get passed because of all the politics. It's the only thing I think, because I'm sure there's an engineer out at Red Bull or Mercedes or Aston Martin, that would be listening to this and saying, you're an idiot, you don't know, you don't work in this, you don't understand. And he or she would be absolutely right for saying, because I'm not, So I'm thinking I'm missing something, and the only thing that I can think of that I'm missing, because they're smarter than this and they would have known that. And the only thing I'm missing is just the sheer politics of the situation and what they can get all teams to agree to versus what really needs to be agreed to.
So then I guess my parallel would be more, if anybody's out there and they're interested in this, there's Marion Nessel. She wrote a book. So she worked on the original food pyramid, right? Like in America, like now it's a plate, right? But when we were wee lads and lasses, it was a pyramid, right? And so when they updated the pyramid into the plate, I think it's a plate now. I don't know. I don't have nieces and nephews in grade school to tell me what it is now. But anyway, one of the things that is irrefutable is eating red meat. Eating red meat is bad for you. And so she talks about in the book, there's a whole chapter about how they can't say that because the beef lobby in the United States is so powerful. And so what it says is eat less red meat. And then it was like eat more lean meat, right? It's like all this like political language around don't eat red meat, it's going to kill you. Right? Because they can't say that because of the beef lobby. So I think to your point, I could see that idea of this isn't what they wanted. They really wanted to say, don't eat red meat, eat vegetables. But they can't be that blunt because of the beef lobby. So they kind of worked around it. And so that's also my advice, that if you see something that comes out of the USDA that says, do less of something, don't do it. Like, if you see a ban on romaine lettuce, you should have stopped eating it 3 months ago, because by the time it gets through the politics that are necessary for them to put out a food warning like that, don't eat the lettuce. So, I mean, so I guess from that also taken from sort of the world I live in, that yes, politics, of course, you have to make these sacrifices, these changes, these compromises in order to make it work. But I don't know, much like romaine lettuce, there's real consequences here, and that you're just going to end up with a season that isn't as interesting for people. Is that really what they want? I didn't listen. I do eat meat. Well, I'm just saying, know yourself here. Red meat, not great for you. But it was very interesting. But anyway, I also think that we should make Pierre Wache the official engineer of this podcast, since he also has an accented E at the end of his name. Like, yes, if you ever wanted to hang out on the Parc Fermé, we would welcome that. That would be pretty cool. Parc Fermé, powered by Pierre Wache. Exactly. Nice ring to Pierre. You got an accented E. You're on the show. You're going to like my Todd's No Shit headlines, because it has to do with Pierre Wache. It's pretty funny. Yeah, whoa, twice in one show. That's pretty good. I know. I didn't plan on this turning into the Pierre Wache show, but no. I think. But yeah, and I think to your point, smart people are often put in bad places. Again, I feel like I say this all the time, but there's a million reasons that Formula One is different than what I do or what you do, but there's a million reasons why it's the same. Organizations are the same, and even though you're an expert in something and I'm an expert in something and they're an expert in something, this happens to all of us. And so I think that's what makes it very relatable, that we can all see this position of here are really smart people that are probably going, this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea, and then this is where the regulations end up. So right. I mean, right. I think it happens. It does. All right. Let's move on to our next one. The heading for this one is pay to play. All right. It's an interesting article over at the fine folks at The Race. I feel like you need a way to say The Race the same way you say Autosport. I do. We need to come up with a new catchphrase for The Race for you. I do. I might get Mitchell mommed over that thing, though, if I come up with something too cute. So, The Race. You remember? Did you ever see the movie? This is one of my favorite parts of the movie, Purple Rain. Yeah, I've seen Purple Rain. Okay, they're playing at that club, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody's partying. Everybody just watched, Maurice Day and Time, and everybody's, But the announcer at that club is the man, because everybody's losing it, having a great time, and he steps up at the mic, ladies and gentlemen. The time. It's just deadpan. I mean, he's almost like a zombie, right? So maybe I just need to go. So I was reading an article over at The Race. And I wanted to share with you regarding how much F1 teams will pay to participate in the 2024 season. You do have to pay to play. Many of you will know that the price is governed by the amount of points the team scored in the previous season. And this was ratified in the revised Concord Agreement of 2013. And with inflation, as The Race points out, this base number is now $6,578. No, I'm sorry, $657,837. Boy, I missed a comma there. I had the decimal at the wrong place. Why do I always do that? I always do that. It's not a small issue, Michael. I always do that. So anyway, Ron Livingston loved it in that movie. No, it's $657,837. I'm not the one that sucks. He's the one that sucks. He's the one who changed his name. Right. Plus, on top of that, call it $657,000. They also have to pay $6,575 per point that they scored in the championship the previous year, and the actual world champions have to pay $7,893 per point. So what does that all look like? A baseline of $657,000. All the other teams have to pay another $6,500 per point they scored last year, and Red Bull has to pay almost $7,900 per point they scored, right? So what does that look like? And kudos for The Race for doing all the math for me. But so let's start at the top. Red Bull.
Are you ready for this? Red Bull, to participate in the 2024 season, will have to pay $7,445,817. This is the largest sum ever paid to participate in Formula One. Mercedes, now get this. Remember the numbers. $7,450,000.
Okay.
Mercedes has to pay $3,347,000. That's half of Red Bull's number almost, right? Ferrari has to pay $3,327,000 instead of $347,000 like Mercedes. They pay $3,327,000, despite being the only other team that won a race in 2023.
And despite the fact that they get paid what? $7,456 extra $1 million every year.
We don't talk about that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. And they're owed that because people cheated and stole their technical manual.
That was 3 pages. Calm down.
It's punitive. They live in duress. They're still reeling from that.
They were paid that money before Spygate, for the record, people.
As far as you know, that's rumor.
I've heard.
Let's see. So, so in Ferrari's case, maybe slipping behind Mercedes saved him $20,000? Yeah. McLaren, $2,643,000. Their rise from mediocrity early in the season may have cost them more money, but fourth in the championship saved them some cash over Ferrari. Aston Martin will pay $2,400,000. I call it $2.5 million. It's probably best because they're spending a lot on the new facility, and the savings may come in handy. Right? Probably best that they finish where they did. I don't know. Alpine, well, probably not because you get a ton more prize money for higher. Right. Alpine will pay $1.4 million. Their lack of consistency in point scoring means they pay less. How about that? Mm-hmm. That works out well for them. Williams, everyone excited about Williams getting up in the championship, not being dead last. Well, for the privilege of doing that, they're going to pay $841,000 to participate. Everybody's excited about that. It's going to cost them quite a bit more money than it did in 2022 when they were dead last. The team formerly known as AlphaTauri pays $822,000. So, look, you roll those ultimately on Red Bull's overall corporate P&L. That all rolls up into one number. So you might as well take the 822 and add that to Red Bull's $7 million. Right. Because it's all put in buckets now, but it all eventually rolls up to a P&L or a balance sheet. Let's see, Stick F1 or Stake F1, $763,000. Call it $700,000 total. That's a bunch of money. Now we know why Valtteri was pushing those butt calendars so hard. Charity. Got to pay for that $763,000.
Where else is it going to do with
Where else are you going to get that money? It's like they're like $760,000. What are we going to do?
Start pushing
I got butt calendars. We could sell those. Good idea, Valtteri.
I just shipped a box to Lewis's house.
Lewis wanted an autographed set. Yeah.
Yes.
And that leaves, guess who? Haas down at the bottom, $736,000. I'll just call this the Gunther fee. This is what it costs, folks, to keep Gunther in Drive to Survive episodes.
There you go.
Every year, it's costing Gene $700,000 or more so Gunther Steiner can continue his acting career in Drive to Survive. So there you go.
It's a lot of calls to Gene.
It's a lot of calls to Gene. Now, Gene, just a little friendly advice here from us to you. You could walk away from that $736,000 and not have to pay anything if you just sell your team to Michael Andretti. See how that works?
Make him pay it.
Make him pay it.
Welcome. Here's all my bills.
To F1.
Here's the folder of bills that Gene Haas didn't pay, just waiting for you to pay them. That would be great.
Gunther's over there saying, deplane.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Michael Andretti. So, but I think at the end of the day, right, this isn't even, even if there wasn't money coming in, right, which there is, because of where you finish is how much money you make.
Yep.
Outweighs how much you have to pay back out. But I think that, this is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of any of their budgets, right?
Well, $7 million to get your attention.
Well,
I mean, when your cost cap's $145 million or whatever, $7 million, that'll get your
catering. They've already figured it out.
Yeah, you thought it was catering. It's a damn, participation fee.
I like the idea of them like, we can't get this many points. Stop winning the races. We clinch. Like, when did they clinch? Japan, wherever they clinched it this year, right? Like, just stop getting points after that. We've clinched it. No more points.
Yeah, that's true. After you win the title, you should just stop winning and finish out of the top 10 so you don't get more points.
Plus, who wouldn't want to watch that? That would be like watching Red Bull trying to lose would be great. That would be some great, Can
you imagine asking Max not to finish higher than 11th?
No, that would be great. I love it. I think that would be great. Like, just take somebody out, or just take Sergio out every race, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that neither of you get any points. That's what we need, right? I think.
Right.
Yeah, it would be like the old Hanna-Barbera Laugh Olympics or something, right? Like, just totally run over some banana peels or something. Yeah. I think that's what I would do. That's what I'd like to see, so that you don't have to pay this money out.
Steven, and our Patreon supporter Steven, asked in the chat, would Andretti keep Gunther? And Dave said, drop him like a hot potato. Yeah.
I can't imagine that relationship would work out very well.
I don't think so. I don't think Michael would have much time for Gunther. Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
So I agree with you, Dave. Don't think that would work. All right.
No.
Next,
it would be fun, though.
It would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for us, yeah, for sure. Okay.
Ian asks, anyone know where the money goes? It goes to Formula One and the FIA, and it doesn't go to MBS directly, but a large portion of it. Well, the FIA gets a portion, and I can't remember now what their cut of the prize money. I knew this. It's just that when you get to a certain age, your brain's like full, and so when you take on new stuff, it like purges older stuff.
Something goes out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I used to know this, Ian. I used to know the percentages that Formula One took, the teams took, and the FIA, and I can't remember anymore.
You'll remember the second you hit stop recording, right? Then it all just like...
I will. Yeah, I will.
Flood right out.
Yeah, apologies, Ian. I should know that. Let's see. FIA leaking...
They use it to, like, build tracks, or, like... it's not just... Right, like, it just doesn't go into, like, the FIA president's pockets.
No. Well, it better not.
Otherwise, why was Jean Todt ever retired or something, right? Like, I don't, I guess it's probably used for, like, facility fees or karting, under karting.
Right.
Under-level karting programs or something. I think that to me would be interesting. I don't know the answer.
Well, there's a lot of other series they're officiating and overseeing, and World Rally, and there's road safety programs and all kinds of different programs they do. I don't know. All I know is you better have MBS up on that ridge by noon, or they'll be held to pay, Grace.
There you go.
Let's see. Speaking of the FIA leaking employees, you'll recall last month that Steve Nielsen, the sporting director, said, thanks, I'm out of here. And he left the FIA. Now Tim Goss, the technical director, is leaving as well. It's like a mass exodus over there. What in the world is going on?
What does it all mean, Basil?
I don't know what's going on. But here's what they said. The FIA said, quote, we're disappointed to lose a person of Tim's caliber from the organization. Tim has played a major part in the technical department and has always operated at the highest level. We understand that his career is taking a new direction going forward, and we support and respect his desire to pursue another path and wish him luck for the future endeavors, end quote.
Generic, and generic. Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Just mad-libbed your ways through that. Goodbye. All right.
And they hired another Tim.
By what name are you known?
There are some who call me... Tim?
Tim? There's a lot of Tims going on here.
Mm-hmm.
The new Tim used to be the safety director, Tim Malin.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be taking the role of Tim.
So then what Tim is going to take over as the safety director?
There's got to be another Tim.
That seems important.
There has got to be another Tim somewhere in there that could take over the safety director role. Right?
Sorry, we're all out of Tims. There's no safety director now.
I mean, attrition happens in any organization, but let's hope the FIA has a deep bullpen of Tims.
Right.
You know? We're going to need another Tim. Send Tim up.
Send in the Tims.
Oh, boy. I don't know. Does anybody think that's a warning sign? Does anybody think all the, I say a couple key people leaving, and
I
got the whole MBS thing, and you got Susie Wolf just, mad as hell. You got Toto Wolff mad as hell, not only on his own behalf, but on his wife's behalf. I don't know. There's some strange going-ons at the Circle K.
Sure. I have no idea what it was like under any of the previous presidents. I don't know what normal attrition looks like or not normal attrition looks like. But
Jean Todt, he had to be the kinder, gentler FIA president.
Well, he did come after Max Mosley, so, I guess that makes sense.
I got a lot of time for Michelle Yeoh. I think she's a wonderful actress, and I think if Jean Todt was a jerk, I don't think she'd be with him.
I don't know. People are weird. I don't know. People have their own things, but...
No.
Yeah, I don't know. People are weird. I don't know. You can't always... I don't know. I can't speculate on whether or not one person's nice because I like another person.
Grace,
I don't know.
He wore red jumpers in the middle of the summer.
I know, and Band-Aids on his fingers. I'm just saying that I don't know what kind of... I think if somebody came to me with this I don't know. I don't know how often what the turnover is in the technical director.
Yeah,
maybe it's a position that sees a lot of... Right? Yeah. And maybe it has nothing to do with them. I don't know.
May not. It's hard to know. I'm just
It's not really... I don't like hang out in Paris outside the FIA's headquarters with Keanu Reeves interviewing people, just waiting to see who's going to leave the organization. But
no, but it might behoove you and I to hang out in Paris with Pierre Wache.
Yes. Drinking hot chocolate. That sounds nice. I like that idea.
I don't know. Do we have to... Are we required by law to sit in a cafe, drink liquor or hot chocolate and smoke gawas or what? I don't know.
I'll just drink the hot chocolate.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty good.
Fair enough. Let's talk about another one. Oh, hey, this is fun.
Okay.
Sky Sports put this together.
Oh, man, you're hitting all the news outlets tonight. This is pretty good.
I know. And here I am. The race did all the heavy lifting and work for me for the last story, and Sky Sports did all this work for me.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sky Sports.
I didn't have to do any work. I rely on the expertise of both those organizations. Sky Sports had a nice reminder of just who is on their last leg of a contract in 2024. Now, this is kind of interesting. Why is it interesting? Because just about freaking everybody's contract is up at the end of 2024.
Oh, yeah, right.
All right? Man. And if you thought crazy season's been kind of goofy the last couple of years, hold on to your hats because this is going to get really crazy, I think. So I'm going to go through the list, and I'm going to tell you who is at the end of their contract at the end of this season. So this season, you'll hear a lot of contract talks and renewal talks and all kinds of stuff. And then there'll be silly season. You'll hear switching and that kind of thing. Okay. So let me go through them. First one, Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz. Contract is up. Fernando Alonso. And Lance Stroll.
Lance Stroll's is always up.
Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, both Alpine drivers, contracts up. Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, both contracts are up. Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, both contracts are up. Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, both contracts are up. Alex Albon and Logan Sargent, both contracts are up. Now, Lewis, George, and Lando, their contracts expire in 2025. So this makes it difficult this year if you're trying to get into one of those top teams because they're still there, right?
Yeah, and Max has like a lifetime contract. Leclerc has like a lifetime contract.
Yeah.
What Piastri? I don't know when his is up.
I don't know when.
What did they usually sign? Like a 3-year?
A 3-year, maybe. Yeah.
So then he's off cycle too.
So you go through the list, Sergio, little concerned about Sergio. Don't know where he'd go. Carlos Sainz, I feel like he could go back to Red Bull, could go to Aston Martin, could, he's not going to want to go to Haas or anything like that, or Alpine, but I could definitely see him staying at Ferrari, which I think would be most likely.
I think so too. I don't know where he would. I don't know where else.
I don't know where you go. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. I don't see Fernando going anywhere, but I think Aston does have to dig a little deep on the last thing and ask himself some hard questions about points. Right? Esteban Ocon and Pierre. Alpine. If I was either of those drivers, I don't know that I'd feel real comfortable right now at the end of this year. I'd like to get a renewal done as quickly as possible.
You should never feel comfortable at Renault.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about Red Bull being fickle when it comes to the drivers, but they're fickle but good, right? Even at their lowest, they're still good. Alpine is fickle and middling all the time, right? Like I agree that it's not really the team you'd want to end up at, and
I think
neither of them.
I think that's kind of what
quiet.
I think I don't know. I think Pierre certainly got talent, and so does Esteban. I don't know. A little weird there. Zhou Guan Yu, Valtteri. I think both of them are. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one.
I think they're both there for reasons that aren't just racing skill. I mean, I think some of it is all relative, right? Like
it is.
Right. Ocon and Gasly, yes. Could they beat me in a car? Of course. But in comparison to the other, people in this sport, right? The other comparison group, they should be worried, right? That's what we're saying. That of course they're great. They're in Formula One. You'd have to be great, right? That's a minimum requirement. But in comparison to the other great drivers, and I think both.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Yuki and Dan at formerly known as AlphaTauri, I think that's going to be tough to keep that seat. I think Nico and Kevin at Haas. I don't think there's any reason not to re-sign them because it isn't them. But I can see Gunther chucking them out now when they got rid of the young guys. Oh, we need to get some veterans. They got some veterans, and now we're dead last. So we got to get rid of the veterans, and we need change. And they're going to keep missing the plot over there.
They're just going to keep firing the coach, except not the coach. They're firing the drivers.
Firing the drivers and not the coach. Yeah, exactly.
I think that Ricciardo is the one I think is going to be most interesting because I think it's easy to see his narrative as being unsuccessful. Yeah. And as I mentioned last week, his narrative is all of Drive to Survive, right? Like, so it's not like Lewis or somebody that kind of, or, Alonso that had like pre-Drive to Survive narrative. Like, he is that show in the same way Gunther is. And so it's like everybody knows it. And so I think that's going to be hard for him to overcome if he doesn't find some success of some sort soon, right?
Yeah,
I think it's just going to be the nail in the coffin, if you will, for him, and that's unfortunate.
It is. Although I think he's a wonderful driver. He might be able to find a complete rejuvenated career in a different series.
I just think people aren't always patient, or so in other sports. So I watch basketball, right? They always complain about people with analytics. It's not all analytics, right? That's right. It isn't all analytics, but I think a lot of times people never look at the numbers either, right? And that's what I'm afraid could happen to Ricciardo, right? Like, I think it's really easy to be like, what has he done? What races has he won? When's he been successful? Oh, that was a long time ago at Red Bull, right?
Right.
And to completely sort of ignore what the world around those numbers looks like,
Yeah, that's true. Well, I know Brad Pitt does, with the Oakland A's,
Oh God. We just went like the show.
Yes, I agree. Let's see, Alex Albon. He's not going anywhere but up. Either he stays there or he's getting a better ride.
That's right.
Logan Sargent, again, I think that's tenuous. Difficult to know. But all of those people, folks, contracts are up this year. So watch this space because this will get really interesting. Some of these drivers may just disappear from F1, and some of the development drivers may move in. You don't know.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
All I want to happen is I want Lewis to go back to McLaren so he can get his 8th championship so he can, bookend those championships, right?
There you go.
Silver and papaya.
I think Mercedes and McLaren should swap Lando and Lewis.
I mean, I think Lando would be the more obvious to leave the team than Oscar, but I'm fine with that. I just would like that, just a small ask, Lewis,
Yeah.
If you could do that for me, and then win your 8th championship, and then you can retire and go live the rest of your life doing whatever it is that your heart desires.
Let's assume that things sort of hold station and they hit this 2024 season and Red Bull's still dominant and Mercedes isn't going to win the championship. I can't imagine Lewis really wanting to do that additional year at that point. I don't know, but he says he's up for it. Yeah, he wants to race well into his 40s.
What is he going to say? Actually, now that you mention it, I've been thinking Haas looks really good. You're not going to say that.
I was thinking about it over the weekend when I read that comment from him, and of course, but I was reading it, and if you go and look at a lot of the drivers, and you go back that are older now, Fernando's and all that kind of stuff, Nico Rosberg's, and there's always that moment, and this is not a knock on Lewis or anyone else. It's really just these guys were all young men when they got in, they got successful, started making a hell of a lot of money, started winning races, winning championships, whatever. You remember back in that day, Lewis was kind of like, he's young, he's into music, he's into this and that, and with the private jet and all that, and he was kind of like, I there's other things I want to do in my life. I don't want to be a driver. Nico Rosberg, same thing, and I want to do other stuff. But then as they get a little older, they go, okay, wait a minute. Now I've kind of partied a lot, I've done a lot of stuff, I've dabbled a lot of stuff. I gotta be honest with you, I'm pretty good at this driving. And that $40 million a year is pretty nice, and all of a sudden I don't mind driving until well into my 40s, right? It ain't so bad.
People are people.
Yeah,
it happens to all of us.
It does. I'm not knocking Lewis at all. I think a lot of the F1 drivers have gone through that similar, headspace. Let's see. Oh, finally, I just want to mention this. Williams, it was announced just today that Williams will remain with Mercedes Power through 2030, and this leaves Haas as the only team without a stated engine supply deal for the pivotal 2026 regulation changes. So one presumes they will stay with Ferrari in 2026, but they haven't stated that. So there you have it.
Ferrari likes to keep everybody waiting. Will you or won't you get mine? It's like The Bachelor. Who will get the rose that is my engine?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
You gotta earn it.
It's Ferrari.
I mean, even though they're required, aren't they required? They have to provide so many engines.
They do, but it's Ferrari.
This is Enzo Ferrari.
It is Enzo Ferrari.
They'll do what they want.
Okay. Shall we do some Albon's Catz? It seems like maybe we should. I think everybody's caught up on the news. I mean, why not?
Seriously, Todd? Stop yelling at Todd.
Yeah. Stop yelling at me. This is just Albon's Catz, where we just talk about random stuff. I mean, this is the part you've all been waiting for. This last hour, you've been like, get to it already.
Get to Albon's Catz. That's what we're here for. We don't care about all this this news stuff you're talking about all the time. Whatever.
Cares.
This is why we're here. So, I think that so my first topic is finally we are now we did our resolutions, we did controversies, I was the fun the fun off-season shows, but now we're just here having some regular Albon's Catz, which means we can finally debrief on Hell's Kitchen, because it's been going on now for months and we haven't had the chance to talk to it. So
right.
And really, what else do we do in the off season if it's not the random scraps of news that we talk about? We're going to be talking about whatever Gordon Ramsay's latest cooking show is. So Anyway, so we've now gone through two of my favorite parts of the show, which is the blind taste test, because I love Gordon Ramsay going choo 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 to everybody. It's so funny every time, and I do enjoy the creativity of the whatever the punishment is, and then and black jackets. So I guess first I'm gonna put you on the spot. So who do you want to win? Now we're down to 5, and thank God Jason's gone, because I hated that guy. He was the worst. Again, speaking to there's always that guy, and it's always when you're doing like group work in college or something, you're like, that guy. And never was it his fault. Never. And I know they're just keeping him because we hate him, right? Like that's the reason to keep him on the show, right?
Right.
But would it kill him to just once go, maybe I didn't have a good day.
Yeah.
Maybe I was at fault. Like whatever the opposite of imposter syndrome is, that's what he has. I don't know what that's called, but hubris. It's amazing. I want to live in that world sometimes where I just like move on a straight line, and if you have a problem with it, it's because you're just a hater. Couldn't possibly be me.
And I don't know all their names. You'll have to help me with this.
Oh, okay.
So I like on the red team. I like Lee. I think she's good. I like Sammy. I think she's good.
Oh yeah, Sammy's a workhorse. I wouldn't be surprised if she was one of the last two.
Yeah, me too. I think on the blue team, the black guy, Demir. I like Demir. You know, he's great cook.
If he doesn't win, Ferrari needs to hire him. I'm telling you, that's what Ferrari needs.
I know. Yeah, I like Demir. You know, he's
come on, guys.
You know, he's just a good leader all the way around. You know,
absolutely.
He's
got the
got that command in the kitchen. Plus, he's a really good chef.
And I mean, I think the episode when a toy was like ready to go into, she's like, I'm done with this. I'm out. And he was just like, you look at me, you listen, like you will stay on the show. You will work hard. You will not. And she was like, you're right. I'm going to stay. I'm like, you need to go to Ferrari. You need to get those people
He
working.
needs to be the strategy guy at Ferrari.
Yes, you can do this, Carlos. We got this.
And I like Ryan a lot. I think he's good.
It's a tight season.
Yeah. The guy with the beard, Carmen. Every episode, it's always like, I'm not doing any of this, and it's just all for my daughter. It's all for my daughter. I just do this. You know, everything's for my daughter. It's like, okay, dude, you know, I love my daughters like nothing else. But at some point, you do have to, like, live for yourself, guy, and make a career. Right. Don't put all this weight on your daughter. You know? And
I just look at,
you know, he's a good cook, though. Jonathan's a good cook. So who do you think's going to win it all?
Oh, I want Demir to win the whole thing.
Yeah, he's good.
He's the best.
He's good.
He's great.
Okay. Everybody else is like, I don't watch this damn show.
What's wrong with you? Are you new to this podcast? Listen, because we're also going to watch, what's his other show that comes on after the Super Bowl with the levels, Last Kitchen Standing, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll just pick up that one after the Super Bowl, because what else are we going to do until Hell's Kitchen circles back around?
Right.
I just love the idea that you can like time the seasons by which Gordon Ramsay shows on this week. You know, like there's always, and then there's a little break. We get the juniors in there, which I don't watch MasterChef. I guess I should watch that one too. But I'm pretty much into Hell's Kitchen, really.
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
Cool. That's great. And watch it.
Okay.
What are you waiting for, people? Start watching it now, because now, like in the beginning, when there's too many people, I have the same problem with Top Chef, which I really like. But it's just like, you got to get like 3 or 4 episodes in, and then you need to then I can start like remembering people's names and what they messed up, and if they can make a beef Wellington or not, or what does their risotto look like. In the beginning, there's just too many people for me to keep you all straight. So now's when you should be watching. Wear black jackets. There's 5 people. Yeah. Jump right in.
Good. All right. You ready for the no shit headlines?
I'm actually not, even though I wasted all of my Albon's Catz time on Hell's Kitchen. So the other bit of, I don't know, we're just keeping it spicy here. Yeah. So I think my other Albon's Catz was, again, because we haven't had Albon's Catz since before the holiday break. So there was a McLaren Unbox, which I know how much you love these, but they made Oscar and Lando wrap really odd shaped things like umbrellas and, you know, like the Lego McLaren assembled, right? To watch how bad they are at wrapping gifts. But they were really weird shaped things, right? Yeah. And so first of all, as somebody who wraps a lot of crap every year, I was just like, that's not how you wrap an umbrella. What are you doing? Like, I'm totally... like armchair yelling at armchair quarterbacking them wrapping these gifts, but they're weird shapes, so I get you that it's not really intuitive. But then they had MotoGP riders wrapping gifts. They had them wrap the MotoGP Monopoly. It's a rectangle. These people, you can ride a motorcycle, you cannot wrap a rectangle. What? I get it that not everybody, and perhaps the stereotype is that men don't wrap gifts, but get it together. Learn how to wrap a square. So I think that, to me, like, not only did Pecco Bagnaia win the world championship, he seemed to be the only one that could wrap a rectangle. I don't understand why. In Elation didn't do too bad. I enjoyed that his comment was like, my wife doesn't let me wrap the gifts. I'm like...
That's funny.
But so anyway, if you need a good laugh and watching, I think at one point, like, Franco Morbidelli just started wrapping the tape around it. Like, this is how I'm going to get it to stay together. So I do enjoy armchair yelling at people that don't know how to wrap gifts. It's not that hard. Learn how to do it. It's a life skill. But this all brings me to, I know I've spared you all for 3 weeks now, not talking about MotoGP, and I brought it back in full force. And you're just going to have to deal with it for just a little bit longer, because we're going to go to the race in Austin in April. So be prepared. You're getting all the MotoGP content now, because now I'm really paying attention. So so if anybody else out there is going to MotoGP in Austin, you got to hit Grace up.
We'll be there. She'll be there, and you can hunt Grace down and enjoy MotoGP.
That's right. Cool. We'll be waving. I'll be wearing a lot of sunblock because it's Texas. It'll be a good time. I'll have a little drink in my hand. It'll be fun. So if you're going, let me know, and I'll try to keep most of my MotoGP stuff to myself, but I really won't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's my no shit headlines. The first one is FIA in a mess as third senior figure quits and pressure mounts on Mohammed bin Sulayem.
No, I guess that
that's their
answers
read.
My earlier question.
Yeah, that's their read on one of the Tims leaving. So there you have it. They say he's under pressure, MBS. So how about that? I was just wondering, and I just said, is that kind of weird? But, okay, next headline is this one. A Red Bull engineer's wife slams claims off back of Christian Horner comments as bollocks. How's that for a headline?
I don't know. I read this bullet point like 6 times. I still am like...
It's so like British it hurts.
Salad. Like, so what happened? Like, okay, so, I'm sure this happens everywhere, but like when you have voting, especially local elections, and there's some, proposition on the ballot, and you're like, okay, the proposition is this or this, and you're like, well, I like A, so do I vote for the proposition or vote against the proposition? Like, it's always really hard. Like, I understand my position, but I don't know how that is interpreted by the proposition, and they're written that way on purpose. That's how I felt reading this book. I'm like, so am I mad at Christian Horner, Adrian? What are my feelings about this statement? I don't even know.
I know. So what this was is Adrian Newey's wife, Amanda Newey, took to Twitter or X and on an article that was quoting Christian as saying, hey, Adrian's awesome. We love Adrian, and he can come and go, and it's just as the team has evolved over time, we've given Adrian space that he can come and go and do stuff, and work on other projects too, and so the team isn't completely reliant on Adrian. The team is evolving under Pierre Wache, and they work with Adrian on a lot of stuff and other things that they're really evolving. And she was like, what nonsense, utter bollocks, and a lot of people were asking her, well, what do you mean, that Christian's comments are wrong, or that the headline is wrong, or that the article was what's wrong about it? She didn't say.
Excellent. So the obfuscation is because the story is obfuscated in the first place. Excellent.
Yes.
Best headline ever.
Yeah. It's hilarious. That's great. So no one still knows what she means. And then this is going to make you very happy, Grace. It was announced in the Mirror. It's there under understanding that Helmut Marko wins new Red Bull deal as Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo get clarity. So Helmut Marko has got another 3-year deal. Ha ha!
Goodbye, good luck, and good
There you go.
Great.
You got 3 more years of Helmut
my
Marko
resolution.
helmet.
My Red Bull resolution is written for the next 3 years. Then.
Yeah, right. You know what the resolution is going to be for the next 3 years. That makes sense.
That's right. Done. So
Yeah.
I'll just write a note to myself to not even worry about what Red Bull should be. Although I'm sure that they'll have a new amount of things that they'll muck up, just like every other team. So I'll just add to get rid of Helmut Marko. I'll just add some more bullet points.
I'm sure.
We're covered.
All right. Well, that does it for our Albon's Catz, and that means that we have one thing left to do, and that's a mailbag.
You've got mail.
This is from our friend Peter. He says, "Why can't F1 people realize that not allowing off-season testing restricts the car's potential and, by extension, diminishes on-track excitement? Without on-track testing in the off-season, the opening season is always a crapshoot. One or more cars coming out luckily on top, and the other struggling to keep pace. That makes for predictable outcomes and audience disappointment." So it's certainly not going to get a lot of argument from me, Peter. The whole reason they said that is cost cap, and cost savings. And this was done even before the cost cap, that they limited car launches, they limited testing. There's no third T cars anymore.
Yeah, and there was that one team that had their own racetrack, and the other team thought that was unfair.
Yeah, okay, fine. Ferrari had their own track, but it's good to be king. But so that was the challenge, is that they were trying to cut costs. This is a Max Mosley thing.
Yes.
And so they were trying to cut costs, and so they did the whole John Talk continue it and no testing, or very limited.
Kids these days will have no idea how much fun it used to be.
Oh man, yeah, it was much better when they did, Peter. All that testing was awesome, and it was a lot of fun. But yes, I agree with you. I think if they had more on-track testing, because wind tunnel and CFD can take you so far, but as they always find out, it's when you put a load to a car in real world scenario, it can be slightly different, and the data correlation can be off a little bit. So anyway, yes, I agree with you, Peter. I say bring back testing, bring back T cars.
But
whatever.
it's been this way for a long time. I mean,
it
you
has,
were saying
yeah,
Max
no
Mosley,
testing.
right? Like,
yeah.
15 years now or something.
Yeah, it's been this way.
10 years.
At least the beginning of Jean Todd's tenure, but yeah, it's been quite a while now that they've done that.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast. Hey, for all of our patrons, supporters that joined us for this call, you guys are awesome. I hope you enjoy doing this. For the rest of you Patreon supporters, over on our Patreon page, I'll post a link up there that you guys can go to and be part of the audience. So you'll be in the green room, and when we hit record, then you can come on and you get to watch us live. You guys get to chat stuff, and they've been chatting to us, and it's great fun. I love reading the comments, and it's a lot of fun to have you guys along for the recording. And this way, as Patreon supporters, you get to watch it live in real time, and you don't have any advertisements, which is great. And it's wonderful to have you, because we could not and would not do this podcast if it wasn't for you guys. And that is a true statement. We could not do this without you guys. So incredibly grateful for your support, and it's the least we can do to let you join us in the recordings of the podcast and be part of the podcast. We love having you guys here, and love your commentary. And if you like the podcast, you can go over to iTunes or your other favorite podcast player. Give us a good rating over there. Show us some love over there. You can share your opinion about this podcast or any other stories we write over at theparkforme.com. Just do it decorum and civility as always. And next week, we will be back to do this all over again when I find Grace in Washington, D.C. And we'll come back and talk about what news there is, and will be. And until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.